Carlson,
Here.
Debbie Knopf,
Here.
Larry Derrigan,
Here.
Esme Martinson, Magdalene Dale,
Here.
Did you get Esme?
I did not.
No. You might wanna-
Esme, you're on mute.
Here, sorry.
We have a quorum. Can we please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag
Of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
Linda, can you confirm our meeting posting for this evening?
Yes, I can confirm that tonight's meeting has been posted in all designated locations.
Thank you. We need an approval of our agenda.
Motion approved.
Second. We have a motion by Cindy, a second by Debbie. All those in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Motion carries. 1.6, we have public comments. Are there any public comments from the public on the live line tonight? We don't have the papers to accept your written.
and probably everyone's on mute right now, Nicole.
You can unmute and make comments if they'd like right now.
Hey, folks. This is Liz Woodworth.
Hello, Liz. Thank you for turning your camera on.
You bet. If this is the time for public comments, I was looking for the chat sign up. I didn't see it. I just want to voice my concern about starting with students and staff in the building at the beginning of the school year. I don't think it's a good idea. I think all of us know that every day we're learning more and more about how this virus works. And I also think the assumption that kids don't spread it is we're learning more and more about this. Studies come out every day. And I want to applaud, I don't know if it's a plan in place, but I know it's being tossed around, the idea of a phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. I think that's brilliant. And I, first of all, think it's optimistic. I also think that it's a way, it's possible to do online distance learning with a sense of community, where kids, if they are in a Zoom room like this for 2 weeks or for 3 weeks at the beginning of the school year, can still have that socialization. And I'm learning more about Zoom as the weeks go on, and it's cool to do breakout sessions. You can do group projects, we all know that. But the idea of this tiny, tiny, fragile community having the city's largest employer, I believe the schools are, with kids from our community, could be a dangerous mix. I hope not, but I just want to voice my concern about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. If there's no other public comment, we're going to move on the agenda. 1.7, we have meeting minutes of June 15th, regular board meeting and executive session.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Cindy and a second by Debbie to approve the meeting minutes of June 15th. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Meeting motion carries. I can kind of see your mouth move. Your mic wasn't quite on, but motion carries. 3.1 future, are there any future agenda items by the board?
None for me.
Moving on, 3.2 finance committee.
So we had a finance committee meeting last Thursday. There are 5 things that are on the public agenda that we've recommended approval, which is the roof project vouchers, the wall for the office, the new ovens and dough mixer, and the fund balance allocation. We also discussed requests from the rec center to replace their boiler and have referred that back to the building committee and Dave to follow up on whether that's a real need. And then we discussed staff salary change, which we'll be discussing in executive session. We did not or have on our agenda the Low Point school meal bid, but that's something we have talked about before, and we can address that then. Also the ferry line bid and the milk bid. And I think the milk bid we didn't get until after the finance committee meeting. So that's it. Most of the stuff is going to be later on the agenda.
Thank you, Glenn. Is there any additions, Randy? Good.
No, that looks good.
3.3 policy committee.
Yes, the policy committee did meet and we discussed Neola volume 29 policies, which we'll also be talking about later on in the agenda.
Administrative reports, 4.1 through 4.7.
Motion to approve 4.1 through 4.6 and place on file.
I'll second that in discussion though. The athletic part about that, I know we've talked that they don't want to do it, but I did also heard some comments made since in the communities about if we can't do it in the spring, in the fall with the basketballs and stuff like that, maybe look at doing them in the springtime. So just something for the committee to look at while they're talking and discussing what to do. So.
Okay.
Another comment on the athletics. I do believe that athletics are important, but I also understand, I really do believe that it's important to take into consideration that recommendation that like sports played in person, indoors, that the transmission rate could be a lot higher and we really need to be wary of that. I sent Jeff an email earlier, but I just want to mention it here in public to the board and everybody else on the call about the idea of buying lacrosse sticks for every student and just having some other way that we're spending that budget that still is supporting athletics and movement and these important things. And so I'm just making that comment. And that there could be some virtual instruction along with that. There's some really good YouTube videos about learning how to use the traditional sticks. And there's a really good message with the traditional game too about healing, about it being a healing game. And I think we could get some really great speakers on that topic. I've heard people speak from the cities. There's also people even alum from this district who play the game and I think would be open to speaking on that. So that's just one suggestion because I know it's going to be a hard one for families to not have sports, but what could the alternative be?
And that's why they were saying that the families were discussing, it's like, because it's mainly the junior high girls and the basketball and stuff. So maybe in the spring, things will be a lot better. Just something to keep in the back of their minds and hopefully we can work something out. Make everybody
for the board this evening, I'd like to report on athletics. Last week, the area athletic director from the conference met, and the superintendent did a poll vote on Thursday and Friday. Area schools, we are going to suspend all athletics through the month of September. And we'll revisit this approach as of October 1. In terms of practices, that hasn't been defined yet. In terms of conference or any type of games or activities,
Here. We need, wait, mute. It's too hard.
in terms of activities, they will be suspended through September 30th.
How many schools do you know are looking at suspending the fall? I seen that Washburn said they were suspending their fall activities. So, I mean, and that's something I know that the AD and stuff, and you guys can look into that and stuff, but just to make sure that it's a general census, you know,
Yep, it is.
and whatever is best for our community too. We got to look at the big picture there too. So,
Yep, when Washburn's on board, Cindy, they're suspending through September 30th too.
okay.
Yep, all area schools, South Shore, Washburn, Drummond, Bayfield, all of them.
If there's no other discussion, we have a motion by Debbie and a second by Cindy to accept and place the reports on file. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. 5.1, we have our vouchers.
I move that we approve the vouchers in the amount of $776,431.20.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Glenn and a second by Cindy to accept the vouchers. Can we have a roll call, please, Linda? Linda, you're on mute.
Nicole Boyd,
Nicole, you're on mute.
Yes.
Deb Knopf,
Yes.
did Nicole say aye?
Yes.
Cindy Garrity,
Yes.
Glenn Carlson,
Aye.
Larry Derrigan,
Yes.
Magdalene Dale,
Yes.
Esme Martinson.
Yes. Motion carries. Under unfinished business, we have consider re-entry school plan 2020-2021. Jeff?
Yes, thank you, board. What I'd like to do now, I'm going to actually put this up on your screen.
Did we lose them?
Who's presenting? Oh, no, there's.
Hi, Nicole, I'm looking to share something with you here.
Yeah.
Okay, here, now, Zoom.
Worked earlier.
Jeff, do you want me to share?
Yes, please. Thank you. I'll run earlier with Linda, but apparently something happened. So we are on the second round of our reopening of schools, and tonight what we'd like to do is provide the school board with more direction and additions from last Wednesday's meeting. So first of all, Randy, could you go to the cover sheet? Just want to be clear that what we've done is we want to make sure that the board is aware that the district recommendation tonight, the school district of Bayfield should establish parameters to determine when It will operate in each stage. We are going to offer stages tonight. When possible, those parameters should be set by and or in collaboration with the county, Bayfield County, and tribal health organizations. So that is definitely important for the district at this point. Any particular stage variation will be determined on behalf of the county health organizations and of course the school board final decision. So what I'll do now is just preface this by saying, before I turn it over to Rick Erickson and the instructional committee, that the goal hopefully tonight is for us to, for the board, I'm asking Nicole and the board to either by consensus or by motion establish the stages that are set forth in this document. If we can do that tonight, then tomorrow and throughout the week, we can then do a community blitz on communication so we can get this out to the parents, community at large, etc. And following this night, it'll be important for staff and all the committees that have been working to start focusing on the operations side. Now that the stages are set, if they are set tonight, what does that mean for the classroom? What does that mean for the buses? What does that mean for food service? That will come about fairly quickly. It won't take, I don't believe it'll be more than the 3 weeks it's taken upon to do this. The committee has done such a good job with this information. However, school is right around the corner. So on your operations side, we are going to ask the committees to start digging down now and start peeling off the onion, so to speak, to determine what it looks like. You know, at the high school, what do the schedules look like? At the middle school, what does that look like? At the elementary, what the rotation of classes, what does that look like? That'll happen beyond this meeting tonight. So without further ado, what I'll do is I'll introduce Rick Erickson and the team, and he'll go over the stages. In addition to tonight's meeting, we added another stage that Rick will talk about that the board requested last Wednesday. Rick?
Got it. Did I hear, was Debbie, is that you trying to get his some attention?
Yeah, my question, Jeff, you said you wanted the board to define the stages, and I'm wondering if you can be specific about that. I mean, Rick has the stages defined here. So are you looking for approval, or do you want us to go in and set dates? I mean, we can't do any of that. And so what are you asking us in terms of defining the stages beyond what Rick has already, and the committee has already done?
So what other districts have done at this point is they're reaching out to their parents and community members to let them know the stages that the district will be offering. So now the parents can then decide of these stages, what are they interested in for their children or their child? And now at this point beyond tonight, they can then reach out to us, or they can start thinking as a family, what does that mean for them? And following tonight, we're working on a survey to the parents. And so we can then identify what areas of interest they are in, so we can start focusing on operations here for that purpose. So tonight, Deb, we're just asking for the permission to get these stages out to the community so they can reflect on what the school is offering for the fall.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that because I didn't think we were going to go back to square one or anything. I just wanted to be the committees have put the work into this, and so we're asking questions, we're looking at it, and hopefully just being able to approve by consensus or a motion so everything can move forward.
Okay, thank
Right?
you.
Is that what you meant?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Any other questions before Mr. Erickson takes over? Rick?
All right. Well, thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to present this. And I'm not going to go through the whole thing again because really, we presented this at the special meeting last week. So I'm just going to identify the changes, and those changes are really in response to what board members asked and questions and comments from the meeting last week. So, and one of them actually was the item that Jeff read at the very beginning, that one of the things that we recommend is that the board work along with county and tribal health organizations to set parameters so that we have actual threshold numbers or parameters. So there's actually some science behind it. So our recommendation is that where we are in stages, that be driven by science and by the health professionals in collaboration with the school district. So that was that initial statement that Jeff read. And then and that's also in is consistent with that. Glenn, thanks for sending the item from the School Board Association, but that document also on the last page identifies pretty much that same thing. It's a document that came out from the health department that DPI sent out, and the last page, one of the items identifies the same things, that schools should have a plan based on the science and based on parameters with the health department. So hopefully that will be happening at some point soon. So as far as the stages go, in response to comments and questions last week, we moved our stages down one. So our stage 1, 2, 3 from last week have become stages 2, 3, and 4. And we added stage 1, which was a full virtual stage, recognizing that we're very likely at some point during the school year going to be in that phase. And so we wanted to include that in the plan. And so that phase very simply says, like, in the event that the district, county, state, federal authorities determine students and staff should not be present in the building, the District of Bayfield will provide a full virtual instruction option for K-12 students. We did, a lot of our discussion was focused around that second item. There was a question, if we started the year fully virtual, would we still have that third-party virtual option that we talked about in the 2-day rotation and 4-day options? And it was good discussion, and the decision of the committee was that we would continue to offer that. I'm sure you're talking to people in the community like we are, and we are hearing some families who have identified that they really don't want their kids in the school, at least through a semester and possibly through the year, even if we go back to face-to-face. And so we felt like we would still offer that third-party virtual option, but we would be very clear that if you choose that third-party virtual option, then you're choosing that for a semester, and then you could make that decision again at second semester. So it would be clear that people who are choosing, so let's say we start virtual, we would make it clear that if you chose to start with the school virtual, the idea would be that you would then roll into face-to-face when we go into the blended options later. But we recognize that there very likely will be some families who might right now know that they don't want to send their kids back. And so we would want to continue to have that option on the table. The only other thing we changed, so that was the big change, was adding that stage. And the only other thing we changed was that in the initial recommendation, we had identified that kindergarten would come for 4 days, and half would come in the morning and half would come in the afternoon. And based on conversations with the transportation committee and with questions about cleaning in between those two groups, we've taken that off the table. And so kindergartners would follow the same schedule as everybody else on the 2-day rotation. They would come on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday split. Just one last, so those are the only changes we made, and then I can take questions. I just also want to reiterate, and I think I said this last time, that the stages, the 2-day rotation and the 4-day a week schedule, those options are option. I mean, we know there are an infinite number of possibilities out there, but just a reminder that we chose those options out of the Wisconsin Forward document that DPI put out several weeks ago, recognizing that document was created by the education leaders and stakeholders in the state. So it was the School Board Association, the Superintendent's Association, the Principals Association, the Teachers Association, CISAs, the health departments, DPI. So that document we felt was very valuable to use, since it really was created by the state leaders. And so so those two stages, stage 2 and stage 3, are consistent with the options that they presented. All right, so I would take questions or comments?
Rick, this is Debbie. And, one of the things that I think Magdalene brought up was, which I thought was a great idea of having, Monday, Tuesday, and then Wednesday off and Thursday, Friday. And I believe I saw somewhere, perhaps I was reading through the minutes of your committee and saw that you had discussed that and you had still come back to the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Could you just summarize that for us so we know how those
You
two
bet.
things balance out?
Sure. Yep. So, and the document, I thought I had shared it earlier, but it sounds like maybe I didn't. So I did share our document and that has rationale in there, but I can tell you just quickly what a couple of those points were. One, and I think I said this last time too, one is that the Friday without students is consistent with Family Forum and Red Cliff ECC. So there'd be consistency for families as opposed to if we had the Wednesday without students. Another consideration, and this came out of the board meeting last week, was that if we're in school Thursday, Friday, then the deep cleaning would potentially mean bringing in custodians on Saturday, which would be additional staffing and additional costs. One of the other points, and we are going to check on whether this is still valid or not. This was based on the earlier science of understanding of the virus, that it was a recommendation in the spring that schools be shut down for 3 days because of the lifespan of the virus. And we haven't made that connection yet with County Health to see if that's still a recommendation. Based on what I read with CDC, it looks like the lifespan of the virus is very dependent upon the surface type. And so that ranges anywhere from a matter of hours to 5 days. So we'll check with that on that particular rationale piece. We'll check with the health department on that. But the primary things were the two that I listed, the consistency and the potential additional cost of cleaning on a Saturday.
If we approve this tonight, I would need, I don't know what the word is, but I would need an addendum or something in there that says that that's going to be followed up on, and that the decision will be made based on hearing those health recommendations. I've asked for that since the first glimpse of this plan, and I feel like it keeps getting pushed aside. And I think it is very important that science is used to make this determination. And even if you go back to the slide that shows stage 2, I think it's slide 3. It says that somewhere in here that the recommendation from DPI was Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. And that's what I read in the DPI recommendations, and that it's our district's recommendation to switch to Monday through Thursday. So I'm just still feeling like I cannot approve this until we have a health person weigh in on it. Yeah. Can approve it with like an exception of that.
Rick, this is Glenn. I have a question. So let's say, if I'm hearing you right, that if we start the year with not going into the school buildings, will we essentially be offering 2 different virtual tracks? A virtual track with our existing staff and a third-party virtual track that you have to stay on for the balance of the year? Am I understanding that right?
Yeah, obviously the decision, that's a decision that the board would have to make, but that's the recommendation of the committee. And again, the rationale being that based on conversations with families that we're hearing that there are some families who don't think they want to send their kids back. And so, if that's what the board decides they want to do, which is the recommendation of the committee, then we would have to make it very clear up front when they're making that decision, what they're deciding. So they would either be deciding to stay virtual for the semester, or they would be deciding that when we come back into the school, that their kids would be coming back into the school. Does that make sense?
I think so.
The short answer is yes. Yeah.
So yeah, so you're locked in on the third party one. There's not a going from the third party to maybe you're halfway through the semester and decide, you know, I really don't like, and I feel comfortable now, you know, kind of going the other way. If someone, you know, they're now feeling like, oh, you know, it'd be safe to go back to school.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something your committee has thought about or looked at?
Yeah, we have, and you know as well as I do, this one of the strengths of our school district is we really take every case into consideration. We do a lot of things on a case-by-case basis, and so like a lot of our policies are written, the way that we have it written in the recommendation or in the minutes is that people would make that decision at the beginning of the school year, and they would have, like our policy already has, they would have a week to make a decision whether or not they want to stay with that, because we allow course changes within the first week of the semester. And then what it says after that is we would take considerations on a case-by-case basis after that, because we know that there are some students who might get into something and a few weeks into it decide that it's not for them. It might not work for them. Virtual learning is a very different form of education, and so somebody might think they want to start that way, and then they might find out that it's really not their thing. And so what we had put in the recommendation is that then that request would go to our pupil services team and the administration, and they would consider that on a case-by-case basis. I mean, ultimately, we want our kids to be successful, and if they are in a program in which they're not being successful, we would want to certainly take that into consideration and potentially allow them to move.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
I was hoping you'd say that.
Yep.
I'm kind of reading between the lines, I think, but I'm hearing that maybe the staff thinks that we should either A, defer the start date of school, or B, start virtually. Is that?
I would say that I would say that there is a significant number of staff members who are very nervous about coming into the building at the start of the school year. So yes, I'm going to say if you polled the staff, you would see that the majority of them would think it's safest to start virtually. We did have the discussion about a delayed start, and that really was not something that the committee recommended. The thought was, if we are fully virtual, we would do similar to what we did in the spring with kind of a soft start, because we're going to a new learning management system, and we would use maybe we'd start on time like our regular start date, but we would use those first 2 weeks to help educate the students and the families on how to use the new learning management system. So our first couple of weeks lessons would really be focused on how to use the system rather than on content area material. So a delayed start was, I mean, you know, like all of us, we want to educate, we want to teach, and we would love to have everybody face to face. And if we can't do that safely, yes, we think we should start virtually, but people were not really interested in delaying the start.
Okay, thank you. And then if that's the case, and I think it makes sense, that also gives the staff more time to come up with their plans for stage 2, 3, and 4, I would think.
Yeah, it does. Sure.
To define it.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Rick.
Yep, you're welcome.
Rick, could you share with the people on the line the rationale about the end early or start early, end early conversation?
Yeah, you bet. So this is what we envision happening throughout the school year. We envision very likely we're going to be in and out of these phases, or we very likely could be in and out of these phases. And stage 2 and 3 are both blended forms of education, and those blended forms require both face-to-face and virtual instruction. And we if we're going to be faced, and even the 2-day split, teachers are, under the recommendation the way we have it, teachers are still face to face with kids for 4 days. And so what our feeling is that if we could delay the start and have an earlier release, that provides us time at the beginning of the day to maybe do some collaboration things that we wouldn't have time to do otherwise. And then the afternoon early release would allow us to make those contacts with the students who are on the virtual system. So let's say we're on the 2-day rotation. So we have half of our kids Monday and Tuesday, but the other half, we still have expectations for them. And so during the day when we have the face-to-face instruction, we wouldn't have time to check in with those students. And so that earlier release would then allow us time to check in with them, to talk to families, to have collaboration time with other staff members. So because of that blended setting, and recognizing we need to get things done in a certain amount of time, we felt that was the best way to do that. Does that make sense? I rambled a little, but sorry.
I think it just would need to be clear to people what the daily schedule would look like, so that they could understand planning wise. I mean, we all know that kids have been home since March, and I'll be the first to admit I don't know that my kids have been up before 10 for a really long time. So that could be a real shell shocker to a lot of families. But I also know that a lot of families are really struggling with childcare, and especially for our 0 to 8, 0 to 10 population. And we're struggling trying to get employees back to work, even in the medical field, because they are expected, their kids should be in school in the fall. And so those are just a lot of community factors that we have to take into consideration. And I do understand the alignment with the Early Childhood Center and Family Forum not having kids on Fridays. I also think it might be kind of cumbersome when we have our bus drivers who work split shifts already and have really unique roles in the district, to be asking them as well to split now their week shift. So I think it's just another added rationale to have Monday through Thursday or Tuesday through Friday. I get it.
Has the Health and Wellness Committee addressed this topic? Jeff?
Yeah, Randy, could we go to the health and wellness slide if possible?
I'm wondering if they addressed that topic in particular about the 4 days.
Missy
I'm
is,
hoping that somebody on the wellness committee is out there that can answer that. Did the topic come up of the Monday, Tuesday, off Wednesday, then return Thursday, Friday versus Monday through Thursday and off Friday?
Michelle, maybe. Michelle's on the wellness, but Missy is supposed to be getting on the line, and so she could maybe answer too.
Yeah, I wasn't on that particular committee. So I couldn't answer that right now, Magdalene, unless somebody else out there can. Anyone on the wellness committee out there?
Is Jackie on?
I'm on the wellness, but I had to miss last meeting, but I did watch it on tape. We did discuss the later start in the day for the social emotional health of the staff, to add on to what Rick had said about the needed collaboration. And also we were working hand in hand because I'm on all 3 committees, the wellness, the instruction, and the facilities. So we were working off of information from each other, and that was shared and discussed. And I felt there was an agreement with the instructional recommendations. And that's just my personal opinion. So yeah, I would have to answer that would be, we were working hand in hand and meeting, all the committees met on Wednesdays to talk about things. We shared our rationales, we were sharing minutes. And any other questions?
I think your specific question is about why it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday off. That's the specific question that's being asked.
And yes, we were aware of the instructional committee making that recommendation. And I felt that our committee, along with considering the wellness, the social aspects of the students and staff, were in agreement with that recommendation. That was my perception on being on all three committees. Thank you.
So I'll take that as though the Wellness Committee has accepted what Rick brought forward tonight, which would be the Monday, Tuesday, and then the Wednesday, Thursday rotation.
This is Jeff Kreiner here. I was also on the Wellness Committee, although I did miss the first meeting. I don't feel that we talked a lot about the instructional plan in the Wellness Committee at all. I felt that we just looked at what our goal was to try to come up with ideas and suggestions based on the science and the data at the time, which is now 2 weeks old, which is a big deal with this, of what are some recommendations that we can give to the all staff committee or the all committee meeting based on the wellness of our students, their families, the community at large, the staff, etc. And I don't think that we were sitting down looking at a document from the instructional committee at our meeting at all. I don't remember seeing it at all or really hearing about it much at all. So when it came time for the all committee meeting last week, we had probably one person speak for, I don't know, a couple minutes, and that was it. That was the whole committee work in the all committee meeting. And I feel a bit that the Wellness Committee, even though we're going to volunteer to meet tomorrow, is a bit of a dead letter office.
Thanks, Jeff. We did put up the wellness slide that everyone could view in terms of the notes from the Wellness Committee. Hopefully that gives some light to what the Wellness Committee has been doing. Thank you. Any more questions for Rick?
Hey, Rick, I'm wondering why when half the kids are at home and half of them are in class, why the kids at home can't just be on the same class schedule as the kids in school. They're just on it virtually. Just like right now, Jeff's in that room with 5 other people and I'm virtual. Why they couldn't be on the same schedule? Like they shouldn't have to be trying to chase kids down at the end of the day. Because we know we're struggling in there with having the tech classrooms, and that needs to be addressed. We couldn't even have virtual board meetings in that room without 5 people being on 5 different computers, which shouldn't be the case. But I'm wondering why that isn't being proposed.
It's not being proposed. So the specifics of what the instruction would look like, I mean, we haven't gotten to that point yet. We've really focused on the stages of re-entering school. And so the hope is, like Jeff described earlier, once we have the direction that this is going to happen, then we can start looking at what the specifics are. So we have started talking about those things. The biggest question with respect to that, and that's come up, and that is one possible way to do it. And the biggest question with respect to that is, can we get the technology necessary to make that happen? Because right now there's such a backlog. What we're hearing from Chris Plansky is that anything that we try to order, if we're going to be ordering cameras in order to make that happen, chances are those things aren't going to be here at the beginning of the school year. So we don't really know what we would have to do if we decided to do something like that. If we were going to broadcast from every classroom, we'd have to make a list of the technology needs, have the technology committee look that over and place that order, and then we'd have to wait to see when that material would be present. So that is on the table. That certainly is a possibility, and that opens up some other options for us, but we haven't really gotten to that point yet of being that specific.
In kind of building on what Nicole suggested and maybe speaking to your concern there, Rick, I think if the lecture, the in-person lecture that could be happening with a small group could be recorded and posted as a video, it would help in a lot of ways. Students who were even in person could review it. Anybody who is at home could view it, even on their own time. And then, so everybody has access to that lecture, and we don't need to have cameras and like live footage. We can have recorded footage. And if instructors are more comfortable, they could record ahead of time and then just play it for the in-person and the virtual, or, you know, there's options there. And we do have a great video production program because of what Dave has built into his tech ed. I don't know. I think some thinking outside of the box is going to help us. Yep.
And I'd have to say another point of view is just that for that teacher to be engaged with that small group in his class, we know that most of our teachers, whether they're kindergarten, elementary, middle school, or high school, really try to be engaged. We know that many of our students have a variety of learning styles. Like we talked about last week, they could all be on their, teachers are individualizing for those kids all the time. So I see that as a benefit of, on the other hand, of the teachers having those 2 days a week to just focus on their engagement with those kids at that time. Even though we wish they were doing with all, we know that our kids in Bayfield really thrive on that relationship they have with their teachers. So all those things really come into play and are important. So thanks again for this plan.
So I'll just piggyback on that, and actually it's a response to Nicole and Magdalene also, because we are thinking about those options, and one of the options that we've talked about, and I don't know that we would prescribe things for teachers, but one of the options that several teachers have talked about is doing the flipped classroom. It's an educational technique that's been many people have been using for a while, but the idea would be that, you know, we're used to the traditional, you do the lecture in class and you give the homework for them to do outside of class, and with a blended option, it might be better to flip that. So like Magdalene described, we might record our lecture or find a lecture somewhere online that's already out there. And that would be what the kids would do outside of class. And then during the time when we had them face to face, we would be working on them. Like Debbie said, we would be working then at that time with them individually, because we recognize that there are so many individual needs. And so a flipped classroom is one of the options we've talked about a lot. So our hope is that in the near future, that's where we'll be able to focus our time is on what that instruction would actually look like.
I think it's important to keep in mind that, and you've said this already, Rick, that we may start virtual, go to the hybrid, maybe the whole school goes back to virtual, or maybe while we're in hybrid, some students have a fever, don't even have COVID necessarily, but still can't come to school, but they're still doing the in-school. So the more that we can build into that hybrid freedom for teachers to be teaching the students that have to stay home or are choosing to stay home, it's not representative on this slide, because right now, I mean, it says we're going to potentially start virtual. We have the option of starting virtual. I think that first sentence should say the school district staff will provide full virtual, because it's not really clear if it'll be the staff or the third party. But then in the second sentence, it says if families know they want to be virtual for the whole year, that's going to be third party. Well, if we're presenting this slide to families, that sounds like that's the next step. And there's a family that says, okay, I don't know that I want to send my kid to the whole year, but I also want my student to have a relationship with their teachers that they've known and their class that they've known. Where do I fit in these options?
That's a good point. And so I can see in going back to the first sentence, I could see adding the school district staff. That makes sense. Then I could also see, and this goes back to Glenn's original question about and comment about making it clear to families, like if this is the situation, if we start virtual, making it clear that that first option, so those 2 bullet points to me represent the 2 options. The second one is you're choosing the third party. The first one is if we start virtual, the staff is providing the virtual, but then as maybe there should be another sentence there that says that as we move into other phases, that if you choose this option, you would be moving into those phases and have face-to-face instruction with the staff. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but what about the what about students who there's both families that you move to in-person, but they're not comfortable sending their student in person. And do they have an option to continue a relationship with their teacher and classmates? And what about the students who would go in person, but maybe are getting, have a fever or have reasons that they're not allowed to attend? How are we educating them? Are they just homesick and out of luck? Because there's going to be a lot of them potentially.
So, okay. So, and there are so many different scenarios of things that could happen. So is that something that you think should be addressed on this? I know this is a slide right now, but I know it's going to be going home in some form to parents. So I don't know how many of those scenarios we address, or if there's a way to just say that in unusual circumstances, decisions will be made on a case-by-case basis. I don't know. That's a good question, Magdalene. I'm just, because you're right. But I could see probably 15 other scenarios also, and I don't know how to address all of those scenarios and make it clear to people.
Until we poll families too, we don't know what's unusual circumstances. I think the next thing is really to feel out the leanings of the students. And this is another comment on an aside, but I really want to know what the plan is. For surveying families. And Jeff said he's got a survey composed, but I don't think it's enough to just send out a Google survey and get responses that way. I don't know if we have an open forum where all staff and all families can attend, if we'll get anywhere with that. Or also classroom teachers calling the families. We need to have a way for them to have options. I don't know.
This is Barb, Ralph. I'm just thinking of one of the words you used, Magdalene, and that was hybrid. And I think that's very important, that maybe, and I guess what I'm thinking is that I remember when Kate Sweevall brought up the point that she plans to have both virtual and in-person instruction dual, more or less. I guess could something like that be presented? Because I think with the spring, teachers did get pretty used to doing more online teaching. I don't know if that answers your question, but I think that seems to be part of it.
Yeah, I agree. I think the hybrid should have options for in-person, but maybe you're continuing virtual learning for everybody as you've started in the fall, and the in-person is really supplemental. It's like that flipped classroom, Rick, where everybody's continuing to have virtual learning, but there's options for students to go in and get math tutoring, do science labs, have English help, do art projects. And for the elementary students, of course, have face-to-face time with their teachers and their classmates in a small group.
So just a couple comments. In terms of the rollout, Magdalene, as you're talking about, you know, there's different options we could do for the parents and community. The rollout will not be, you know, when we roll this out to the parents, we certainly want to be able to illustrate to them what those options are. So the slides that we have tonight are for us and the board from the committee's work. This is basically the framework. But when we roll this out, we will come up with a better way to show parents what those options are, and then illustrate in those options some of the stuff that we're talking about now. Also, in terms of what Barb had to say and what you're talking about and others, that's the next phase. We're starting to talk about, you know, okay, we have our framework here now. How are we going to do this? And I think what Rick said earlier is that's the next phase. Now we're going to start talking about detail. We're going to start talking about the things that we're all thinking about now. What's happening on Madeline Island? What's over here? What, you know, that's next. So I'm hoping that we can have a consensus tonight on the board on these stages, so we can begin that next phase that you and Barb have been talking about and others that are out there in terms of how the operations will look and all those different scenarios that are going to come up. That's the next communication phase we need to get into.
Jeff, or
Yes.
whoever, you brought up Madeline Island and Kate a couple of times. And I think everybody acknowledges that the Island School is unique and different than the Bayfield School. Is there the flexibility in this plan for the Island School to potentially be in a different stage than the Bayfield School?
In communication with Kate this past week or two, Kate has been given the green light, Glenn, to pursue that. There's roughly 12 students on the island at the school, and the circumstances are different there. So she is currently strategizing and bringing forward ideas to us regards to what your assumptions are in terms of the uniqueness over there and how she could do things maybe differently there that would satisfy and help out, in her view, her and Evan. There's 2 people on the island this year rather than 3. So she's taken all that into account and what will work for her. Okay. I think she's sharing that with Rick and the team, I believe.
I happen to know, Jeff, that she is meeting with the LaPointe School Committee parents on, I think, on a Zoom call on Thursday to start to get their input on what her ideas are. So I think as long as it isn't where they're connected at the hip to what the Bayfield School is doing, I think as long as, you know, we are clear that yes, there will be flexibility to adapt to the different circumstance at the island.
I think,
Yeah.
This is Missy. Can you guys hear me?
yes.
So yes, Kate and I spoke at length about LaPointe, and with her being pregnant, I also look at her health, safety, and well-being, and we also talked about that's also something we need to consider in making sure that she's in a good position as well. So yes, I have had conversations with her, and I've had her keep in touch with Jeff about their plan being different, because it is a different circumstance, a different situation. As long as she was communicating with her families and that they were staying in touch, things would be just fine, and not being connected at the hip with Bayfield.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for the opportunity tonight to the school board to share. And I guess, Nicole, I would ask the board for the ability to move forward on the stages so we can begin the communication phase with our parents at this point and putting things together moving forward.
Board, Jeff, I just want to be clear on this too. With these stages that are in place and the dates that are set, we still have more room to negotiate those dates if we need to, as we see fit, as we go on, right?
Yes, the document allows for board discretion and fluidity as we move forward.
Okay.
It's also dependent upon what the Bayfield County Health Department would reference, the Recliff, health professionals and the state. Everything's fluid at this point. That includes the dates.
I don't know if it's fair to call it stages when they're more like options. Because we're not saying that everything has to be gradual. We're saying that we want all these factors in the event that some people are ready to come back, some people are not, some people suddenly need to not be there. Like stages seems like it's always gradual.
Yeah, you are correct, Nicole. It'll be rolled out as options for parents. So I guess it's the language right now that would be more options than stages.
No, that just made it more confusing, Jeff. So I understand the stages. The stages are, stage 1 is based on a health recommendation that it is not safe to have people in the building. So we're all virtual because the recommendation is it's not safe, or or the district's choosing that stage for some other reasons that were listed too, I think, like to lay the foundation for virtual instruction, to give teachers time to focus on that. We would move to stage 2 if the recommendation was that it is now safe for students to come back to school. And at stage 2 is where the options really come into play, because at stage 2, there will be, we've been saying that we want to give families the option at stage 2 to have in-person learning. But stage 2 is a hybrid. It's the hybrid phase. It's the phase where there's some virtual and there's some in-person. And what that looks like is the big mess to be sorted out. But I think that there is a way through that. I really do feel that. And that has some really like good benefits, like Deb mentioned before, like having some small group. Small group is good. To have one teacher with a small group, it can be really effective, really, really effective. And then stage 3 is when they say, okay, I don't like stage 3 and 4 to me are really similar, because that's when they're saying everybody can come back 4 days a week. We don't need to be social distancing. We can, like, the risk is like so low. I don't know that I really see us getting to stage 3 next year. I don't know. I don't know that we can know. So really it's both, Nicole, it's both stages and options within stages.
Can I weigh in on this real quickly? Because those are all great points, and Magdalene, you laid that out very well. And I think, and Nicole, you're right on the money. I think that it's a matter of communicating, because there are two things happening. The stages are exactly what Magdalene said. And I think it's important that when we lay out the stages, what you're saying is these are things that are going to be determined based on parameters and thresholds in coordination with health departments. What I think what we want to know from parents is that there are options. We're presenting options, and what we're asking them is, if we are at some point during the year going to be face-to-face, do you want that option of being in the hybrid model or where there's some face-to-face time, or do you want a fully virtual model, so that we have some idea of how many kids we're going to be dealing with when we do go back to school?
Rick,
Does that make sense? There's like two parts. There's the options we're giving them about fully virtual or hybrid when those options exist, but there's also laying out that these are the stages that could happen at some point during the year, and we could be in and out of all of these stages at any given time.
And I think, Rick, that's maybe where Nicole is getting to is, when the term stages kind of implies linearity,
I agree.
Right? And how about if instead of using the term stage, we use the term level, like level 1, level 2, level 3, which, it's like, security levels. We can move back and forth between, if we had force lights to a stoplight, I'd use all those 4, red, yellow, and green. But I think,
and we'll just call it code red, code yellow, and code green.
But we need four.
I like the word,
We need-
I like the word
I don't know,
level.
code green, 3 and 4 are almost the same thing.
I like the word level because then obviously we're, you know, it can either go linear in a gradual or we get to some place in November and we have to go backwards. You know, we have to move from level 2 back to level 1 because something's changed. The only other comment I have that I think needs to be clearly mapped out for families when we get to that point is the parameters on this virtual learning by a third party. For families that choose that, I think we need to make sure that we know what those policies are of that virtual learning. If we're paying, you know, I saw something about up to $1,000 a pupil for that. Is that being paid for a year, for a semester? You know, is there a refund if you decide not to stay there? You know, and not that that's critical to our district, but we don't want a lot of movement back and forth. And if Educare or some of those places are going to take students, do they want that student to start, you know, out at the beginning of the year and continue for a semester? Or, you know, will they get credit? How will that? I just think the whatever system we choose, that should be pretty well laid out so people understand that that's making a, you know, a commitment, whether it's for a quarter or a semester, to doing that, so that it isn't as much, so that decisions to change are not made lightly, that people are, you know that they're making a commitment to either the school levels or to the virtual learning for more than, you know, a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks at a time. So just to lay that out, that's all.
So I like the levels also, Glenn. Rick, do we want to consider that moving forward beyond here?
Yeah, that's fine. Sounds great.
We can make that adjustment.
On this slide we're on right now, that first sentence, so Rick said he agreed about adding staff. Can we change the sentence to say, in the event the district, county, state, or federal authorities determine students and staff should not be present in school buildings, the school district of Bayfield will provide full virtual the school district of Bayfield staff will provide full virtual instruction for K-12 students, which will continue during stage 2, 3 days a week, or something like that, some commitment that we're not, and I don't know if it goes on this slide or if it goes on stage 2, but that we see that that virtual learning is building towards the hybrid phase.
Any comments from Mr. Erickson and the committee?
Yeah, I think that's fine. I think that makes sense I think that the more clear we can make it, that the choice, when you're making that choice, that you are choosing then to have the face-to-face option, I think that makes sense. Absolutely. However you choose to word that, I think that would be fine.
Continuity of care.
Okay.
I'm going to make a motion that we approve the Bayfield School District Reentry School Plan for 2020 through 2021 as presented, with the changes that have been presented, so that the next steps to detail how it's going to work can be moved forward.
I can second that motion if I know that it is including that health official input on the designated days of hybrid learning, the Wednesday, Thursday, or Thursday, Friday.
Are you okay with that, Debbie?
Yeah, is that something that is accessible through the state of Wisconsin, through the DPI or something?
Well,
Or where are you requesting that come from, Magdalene?
I liked Nicole's input from a long time ago about asking the head Redcliffe health director their opinion on it.
Are you
So
okay
we
with
could access the local Rockcliffe health professionals. We can access Maple County and the state, the three tiers, and then come to a consensus if that would be appropriate.
Okay, I'll amend it to include that.
We have a motion by Debbie, second by Magdalene to accept the plan presented with the changes recommended and with follow-up required on the days per week recommendation. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Is Larry an aye? I can't see Larry.
Yes. That's
Thank you,
because
Larry.
my camera's off, but I. Do you
All
hear me?
those are in favor. Motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Rick, for taking the time and answering all of our questions as well.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks, Rick.
Thanks, Rick, and to everyone else, all the committees. Thank you, Randy, for the slide presentation.
Moving on our agenda, 7.1, school reentry planning budget update. I believe this was a request from the board at the last meeting to get an understanding of not only what the funding has been spent on, but what additional funding is going to be needed outside of this 167,000 that was approved from the CARES Act funding. I believe that we meant what extra personnel and what extra expenses associated with the planning are going to be needed. So I don't know if you want to give an update, Jeff or Randy.
Yeah, Randy, did you put anything together on that? Any type of information?
We're really waiting. We're really waiting from the committees. We've heard anything from, some more maintenance, some more bus monitors. So we're really waiting from that. And also, when we go to the more, consider the end of the year budget fund balance too. We have some monies that we can use there. We also have some fund balances. So we're really waiting to put everything from committees. Initial phase accepted and ready to go. Then we'll kind of go into the meat of everything. We'll really break down what all of the committees are looking at. I know we talked about, more nursing people, more IT people. That's where we really have to break everything down. So this is really just what the CARES Act provides us for, and then we'll really get some more information later on. Is that what I understand, Jeff?
Yeah, Nicole, response to your question. So now what we'll do, we'll dissect the committee work. We know that we're looking at, for instance, 6 more bus drivers or bus monitors. Karen, in the food area, we're looking at least 4 service individuals for the food prep. So these are things I know that are coming forward. There's others in the committee work that Randy and I will start putting together for the board and to determine the cost, and then bring it forward as soon as possible.
And if I can elaborate on Nicole's point, Randy, and thank you for what you have given us, but I think that I'm interested in more than just what the CARES Act money is going to pay for, because yes, and I understand it's going to be really hard to come up with estimates. My hope would be that regardless of, and I know you've got the most complicated accounting system in the world, but is there a way for anything to be coded as COVID related, even if it's not something that perhaps is being paid for under the CARES grant, but that we will, as a board, be able to assess on, let's say, a monthly basis, how much have we spent on COVID? How much have we gotten in reimbursement from the government? you know, and that kind of big picture thing is really, and to the extent that you're able to, after you get a better plan from the committees, you know, to pencil out what you think on a monthly basis, you know, or a whatever basis. Some of these things like the plexiglass and, you know, foot stuff are going to be, or, you know, stuff on the floor are going to be, you know, one-time things, but, you know, hiring people is a, well, how long are we going to have them? You know, and so if you could give like just the roughest, and, you know, maybe for the next board meeting even, or the next finance committee meeting, just some sort of ballpark. Is that?
Yes, so the state of Wisconsin gave us a project code. So anything that we have expense-wise for anything COVID related will get designated under that project code. So we will have a running total for anything that we spend re-entry wise. Yep.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. And yes, this will be a monthly board look at to see what we're spending.
Okay, great, thanks.
Any questions about the CARES Act then, or any more questions on this?
Randy, could you take the slide down, the presentation of, did you take that down yet so we can get to the agenda slide?
Yes, I can. Hold on.
Let's move on then, if we're all done with that, to 7.2 on our agenda, consider 2020-2021 academic standards.
So every summer in July, we have to, on an annual review, we have to adopt the state standards accordingly with the board motion. And they should be listed on the board docs. I just don't have it up yet on my screen.
Do any board members have any questions? Do you have questions on how they're determined or what the choices are, or no questions?
No, I have a question. I can't bring it up on my screen right now. Can you clarify what the expectation is for next fall? Is it going to be letter grades, or, I mean, is that what we're talking about?
No, it's a broader
Okay.
level standards are,
Okay. Yep. Got it. Okay.
like the standards that we adopt.
Is it affected by COVID next year? You know, with DPI saying that districts can do what they want, does that include the standards? I mean, I'm just curious.
So right now there has been no, in terms of DPI, we're still waiting for the waiver process to start following through in terms of the minutes, the waiver of instructional minutes. There might be a waiver of the start of the school year. There are some districts that might start earlier than others or later. There's also a possibility of waiver on how we do attendance for virtual. But what you have in front of you tonight is the basic school standards that we are by law required to provide our high school students and middle school students in terms of instruction that we have to meet. Students have to fulfill these credits prior to their graduation of their senior year. And it's an annual approval by the board. So it has to do with math, English, science, etc.
Yeah, I make a motion to approve the 2021 academic standards as presented.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Debbie, a second by Cindy. Is there any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. 7.3, we have considered non-affiliated retirement We have Lori Heckman. I'll make a motion to approve. Lori was there, I think, my entire K-12. So,
I was gonna say with,
Mine too.
oh my gosh,
I am so sad she's leaving.
yeah.
We have to approve it.
yes. Oh, sorry, but I
And we-
did make a motion.
I'll second that.
So the motion is by myself, the second is by Esme. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Our motion carried.
We'll miss you, miss her.
So
Now, the
much.
next one I'm not gonna approve.
Moving on to 7.4, we have considered Director of Buildings and Grounds retirement.
No. Dave Weber has just done such a remarkable job turning things around for our buildings and grounds. I just can't give him enough kudos for what a tremendous job he has done, and it's very hard to see him go. But I'll make a motion to accept it.
I'll second.
Just want to thank you for your support for the last 3 years as the director of building grounds.
We thank you so much, Dave. We have a motion by Debbie, a second by, did you second Cindy?
Yeah.
Second by Cindy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Bye. We're gonna miss you.
Dave, we know where you live. We'll just call you or run and grab you if we need some help.
Hey, we need a sub. No.
Sub. 7.5, consider principal resignation. We have Miss letter to our board.
Motion approved.
Second that.
We have a motion by Cindy and a second by Esme. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Were we gonna change the motion at all?
We have not received, no, I don't have any motion changes.
Oh, I thought we were gonna accept it as of today.
Is that what you're recommending, Jeff? Jeff,
Yes.
you mean the last day of employment?
The recommendation, as Randy is saying, is for today.
And she's asking for,
Well, no, because we talked about that. If we were gonna do it for Missy, we would do it for Dave and we would do it for the others.
No, I thought we were gonna change to accept her resignation as of today. Didn't we talk about that or no?
Well, we are accepting it as of today.
That is correct. It is up today.
Well, she had asked to as of July 31st.
We can talk about it in executive. Please, board.
my motion stands till whatever she had stated, because I don't know nothing about what was taking place beforehand, so. That was my motion.
And I believe we had a motion by Cindy and a second by Esme. Does your motion stand, Esme?
I didn't realize that there was any discussion about this, so I'd like to talk about it in executive.
We can talk about it in executive if you want to retract your motion and we'll take action when we come out.
All right.
Yeah, I guess.
Do that.
Yeah.
So both motions are rescinded, Linda, for your record. We'll move on. 7.6, consider LaPointe School Meal Bid 2020-2021. The only bid I'm imagining we received, right, Randy?
This is Jeff. That is
Sorry, I
correct.
can't find my unmute button, but yes, that was the only, we had a 3-year agreement and the consensus was that the escalator clause of 3%, which we talked about last month, was what we would agree on. So they also agreed the 3% escalator clause.
Okay, thank you.
And that was, just thank you, Randy, for negotiating that. That's a big reduction from what their initial proposal was.
Mhm. We do need action by the board.
I'll make the motion that we approve the LaPointe School meal bid for 2020, 2021.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Glenn, a second by Debbie. Could we have a roll call, please, Linda?
Aye.
Aye.
I can't hear.
Quiet.
I don't hear her.
You're on-
We can't hear Linda.
Linda, I just heard you like faintly, I think through Larry's mic or something.
Glenn Carlson,
Aye.
Debbie Knopf,
Aye.
Nicole Boyd,
Yes.
Cindy Garrity,
Yes.
Esme Martinson,
Yes.
Motion carries. 7.7, consider Madeline Island Ferry Line bid. 2020, 2021.
Motion to approve.
I'll move we approve the Middle Island Ferry Line bid.
We have a motion by Debbie, a second by Glenn. Could we have a roll call, please, Linda?
Esme Martinson,
Yes.
Larry Derrigan,
Yes.
Cindy Garrity,
Yes.
Nicole Boyd,
Yes.
Magdalene Dale,
Yes.
Glenn Carlson,
Yes.
Deb Knopf.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Consider LaPointe fuel bid for 2020, 2021.
Again, this was the only bid.
How do you get there? Is it the wrong one in there?
0.73.
7.8. It's not the. Okay, you guys see the fixed price?
Yep. I move we accept the bid from LaPointe Gas for $1.73 per gallon for the 2020-21 period.
I'll
Second.
second.
We have a motion by Glenn, a second by Cindy. Could we have a roll call, please, Linda? Thank you.
Glenn Carlson,
Yes.
Cindy Garrity,
Yes.
Magdalene Dale,
Yes.
Esme Martinson,
Yes.
Deb Knopf,
Yes.
Nicole Boyd,
Yes.
Larry Derrigan.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. Consider milk bid for 2020, 2021. We have Up North Foods milk bid.
Again, our only bid.
Is that up from last year a little bit?
It's just up the escalator clause, so it's not a lot.
Okay. Motion approved.
Second.
I have a motion by Cindy, second by Larry. Could we have a roll call, please, Linda?
Debbie Knopf,
Yes.
Glenn Carlson,
Aye.
Magdalene Dale,
Yes.
Nicole Boyd,
Yes.
Cindy Garrity,
Yes.
Esme Martinson,
Yes.
Larry Derrigan.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. 7.10, consider new ovens and dough mixer quotes.
They're just quotes now, right?
not purchased.
Who's presenting? Randy?
Yes, that's correct.
Wow.
We have not purchased anything, but these are used every day and they're pretty old. The electric kettle and then also the convection oven, it's natural gas, and the dough prep one also.
Motion to approve.
I'll second it. We have a motion by Larry to approve, myself second. Could we have a roll call, please, Linda?
Debbie Knopf,
Yes.
Cindy Garrity,
Yes.
Glenn Carlson,
Yes.
Nicole Boyd,
Yes.
Larry Derrigan,
Yes.
Magdalene Dale.
Yes.
Esme Martinson. Esme?
Oh,
Yes or
Yeah.
no?
yes. Sorry, I thought I said that and I thought I was on mute and I'm trying to read the board docs at the same time.
The motion carries. 7.11 on our agenda, we have the roof project bid and building update.
Motion to approve. Second.
There are options.
Yeah, there are a couple options that we need to address too. I know Glenn was at the finance committee meeting along with Dave Weber, myself, Jeff, on the different options that John Grazina was proposing.
Randy, could you go over those options?
Yeah, I'm,
Or if you want, I can.
Yes, no, I can. Let me share my screen.
Okay.
Can everybody see what I'm talking about? Okay, so the first one is the alternate price. It had a better Atlas roof shingle, and I believe if Dave Weber can correct me, it's like a lifetime shingle warranty. And John Grazina, who is our architect, was in favor of upgrading to the extra money for the Atlas roof shingles. But I believe for the second alternate price was the install the corbel trim. And I don't believe, Glenn, if you can correct me too, if we agreed on that.
Larry, my recollection was that we did not want that. And we were going with the Atlas roof shingles.
That's right. We didn't agree to that, the 17,000. The corporals or whatever they are.
But we
Yeah,
wanted to do, we recommended the alternate price one for the roof shingles, if I recall.
Yeah, those corporals didn't do nothing to the integrity of the building.
Right.
Can I just say something? I was at the grounds meeting when we met with John Grazina. And the reason I wanted a price for the corbels was because of Bayfield's historical district mainly, and the history of the building, I guess, downtown Bayfield. It doesn't actually fall in the historical district, I don't think. But I really wanted us to be able to say as a board that we at least did the research and that we considered the original style, I guess, or architecture of the building, and at least gave it consideration because of, I think, how some people feel really strongly about Bayfield's downtown and the residential historical district that is attached to that. So I just wanted to consider the importance of that, I guess, and at least do our homework. So I'm fine with it as it's an obvious added cost, but I just wanted to say that.
So the motion is by Deb, second by Cindy, and we're approving masonry repair and roof project bid with alternative option number 1 only, correct?
correct.
Does your motion stand?
Yes.
Cindy? Could we have a roll call, please, Linda?
Nicole Boyd,
Yes.
Debbie Knopf,
Yes.
Cindy Garrity,
Yes.
Glenn Carlson,
Yes.
Larry Derrigan,
Yes.
Magdalene Dale,
Yes.
Esme Martinson,
Yeah. Thank you. Motion carries. Sorry about all the votes, guys. We're spending a lot of money. 7.12, consider construct wall for office, Lupino quote.
Did we approve the masonry? Did I miss that?
Yes, we did.
Did we do both?
I stated in the recap for the motion that it included masonry repair and roof
Okay.
What is this wall they're talking about?
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Dave. Do you wanna know?
You want me to talk? I know this
sorry.
one too is because of possibly losing the conference room. There's another area in the middle school building that we could possibly use. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, and also with the additional staff member, breaking up the pupil services special ed position and elementary principal, there's a domino effect on office space. So that's one area. If you can all recall the middle school locker bay, there's a spot there that is accessible in terms of square footage that we can go without at this time with the lockers. We have a tremendous amount of lockers up there that we can take out due to our enrollment. And so there's a spot there that we can make into a quasi kind of type of conference room, or even a tutoring area for a math interventionist. So it's a good spot, and it'll be a good place for the teacher, and we can hold some conferences also regarding IEPs, etc. Hope that helps. Any questions?
It's a lot to put up a wall.
Have we gotten other quotes?
Dave, it's not just one, it's 2 walls.
You have to keep it insulated and it sounds in there.
Here, Dave.
What else comes with that, Dave? The whole furnishing, everything within that room. What is it what's constructed in? What will be constructed in?
Other contractors was someone else's question.
It's definitely space we need within the building with the additional staff members that are coming on board. We're also going to be using the elementary conference room next to Jackie Noah's nursing office. There's a door that extends there. And if we have a situation with a student who comes down, or if there's an emergency care situation, that will be the room that we chose to use in terms of those purposes.
I can barely hear Dave.
Can't hear him at all. Have we gotten other quotes?
Closer.
Also be more outlets added to the room and lighting with different switches. So that's all in on the estimate there. So
Asked if you got any more quotes.
we will be, the custodial crew will be moving the lockers. So we'll be doing that. We do have some space to move the lockers to.
Have we gotten any more quotes?
Also, just for your information, because it's under $250,000, we don't have to get multiple quotes. And right now, because there's so many projects going on, we don't have a lot of options with and time with contractors. There's just not a lot of contractors out there bidding on this information, these kind of situations. And with Angela Lupino, have really done really good work, and they're really at our beck and call almost, correct?
Yes.
Motion to approve.
Second,
I have a motion by, I missed it, Debbie. Second by Larry. We need a roll call, please, Linda.
Larry Derrigan,
yes.
Magdalene Dale,
Yes.
Esme Martinson, Cole Boyd,
Yes.
Debbie Knopf,
Yes.
Cindy Garrity,
Yes.
Glenn Carlson.
Yes.
I mean, just for the record, so the public knows, it's $12,671.
But it is more than a wall. It's really an office, it seems. There's more to it.
Yeah. Still a lot.
Right, and it's the locker bay is going to be turned into a conference room or office space, so it is more than just a wall.
Yeah. Well, we are moving on, guys.
Do they have another spot in place for the lockers then, or are they not gonna have lockers?
Yeah, Cindy, you're right, adjacent to it, there's plenty of room by that by the locker bay area right there. And also in the corridor, there's plenty of space for the 80 or so lockers we need.
Okay.
7.13, consider 2019-2020 end of year budget fund balance.
So Randy,
So, yep, sorry, I was trying to share my screen at the same time. So we have approximately $927,000 left over from the, I'm sorry, $710,000 left over from the 2019-2020 school year. What I'm suggesting is for capital improvements, we know we have to have a new roof. We have to have some new corbels, not corbels, but a new roof and masonry work. And it's going to be over 500,000. So I just thought, of the $710,000 that we have left over in our budget, to put $500,000 into our Fund 46 for capital improvements. And then we would have an additional $210,000 for unassigned fund balance, so that we could use to help us next, this new school year with all of the different projects we're going to be doing with the COVID-19 pandemic. We also have a total fund balance of $5,600,000, that we would have with the $210,000 increase in the budget.
And I'd like to point out, the Finance Committee considered this and recommends this allocation. And I'll make a motion that the board approve this allocation.
Second,
We have a motion by Glenn, a second by Larry. Could we have a roll call, please, Linda?
Nicole Boyd,
Yes.
Deb Knopf,
Debbie?
Yes.
Cindy Garrity,
Yes.
Glenn Carlson,
Yes.
Larry Derrigan, Magdalene Dale,
Yes.
Esme Martinson, Esme,
Yes.
Carries. 7.14, consider Neola Volume 29, Number 1 update. First reading, waive second. volume
Yes.
2.
Yeah, I want to speak on that. We, at the policy meeting, we all decided that, yeah, we want to move forward with the first reading with exceptions to 2 of them until we get more clarification. And we want to, want the whole board to find out their opinion on one of them. So the first one was, sorry, it's dark in my house right now. The vermin policy. We wanted to get more clarification regarding that from, I'm not sure who was that, Jeff, we were looking at trying to get clarification on.
We're going to contact Neola Legal and also look at our old policy.
Right. And the other one was on the social media. I felt that because of with some complications that we had with some staff this past year, that maybe we should really revisit that and look at it more and see where we can go with it. So those are the 2 that we were recommending that we hold off until we get more clarification on. But all the rest will go through for a first reading and waive the second reading.
Which, could you say the first one again, Cindy? I kind of couldn't, you were breaking up.
The vermin, is that what they call them? Animals. Animals.
Fur bearing. So
yeah,
it was to allow, we had to decide if we wanted to change the policy from not allowing any animals into the building to considering on a case-by-case basis any emotional support animals that kids might have, or animals that are brought into the building for a different purpose. And I think that I could be wrong, but I think we wanted that the insurance policy to be looked at and considered to make sure that we were covered if animals were in the building at all. And then also we wanted to make sure that, what was the other thing, Cindy? Insurance and?
I think it was the lawyers to make sure that.
Lawyer, yeah.
So.
And we're also very well aware of the staff in the building who may have allergies to the fur bearing. So that's a consideration too, and how that we would approach that.
Does anybody have any other discussion? Otherwise, we can take action on that chapter with the exception of those 2 items.
I think that, I thought myself that section was kind of labeled wrong. It says fur bearer. You know, that's pretty broad category. I mean, we don't bring pet camels in here, you know, that stuff like that. So maybe we can look at that, and maybe it might change the definition of the whole section if you would change it to something other than fur bearers. That's all.
That's kind of why we waited on that, because, you know, it could be any kind of animal, and we're not sure, you know, anybody could have like a helping animal to come help them through the healing process or whatever that may be, a turtle or a dog or chicken or a snake or whatever they may want to use. So we want to get more clarification on that. And a camel.
Okay.
No pythons.
I'm going to bring my pet camel next week.
Case-by-case basis.
Yeah.
I don't believe I heard anyone make a motion.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Larry, a second by Cindy to accept what's been presented for the Neola policies. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you, everybody. We are going to adjourn to executive session in accordance with Wisconsin Statute 19.85. We have the consideration of hire for a family and consumer science, proposed change to support staff salary schedule, consider middle school, high school principal contract, consideration of changes to the superintendent's employment contract, elementary principal exit interview, and we are also going to talk about the resignation of our principal.
Okay.
We need
Move that we go into closed session.
Can somebody invite me too? Because I think I have to present something.
I heard a motion by Glenn.
Second by Debbie.
Second by Debbie. We need a roll call.
Nicole Boyd,
Yes.
Yeah.
Aye.
Garrity,
Yes.
Larry Derrigan,
Yes.
Deb Knopf,
Yep.
Esme Martinson,
Yeah.
Glenn Carlson,
Yes.
Magdalene Dale.
Yes. Thank you. Motion carries.
We'll see you soon.